It was around an hour before noon when the Sahaba radiallahu anh, they were gathered around Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. As was customary at the time of Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that he would sit with them after Salatul Fajr, and many times he would come before Zuhur Salah or Zuhur Adhan was made, and he would arrive and the Sahabas would huddle and gather and they would sit with Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and he would talk. This was also the time when delegations would come and meet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, because he had rested and now he is back in the masjid and waiting for Salatul Dhuhr. So Jarir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anh al-Jabali, he is a Sahabi, and the fuqaha and the ulama, they love all the ahadith that he has narrated, because he accepted Islam 40 days before the death of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He mentions the whole story, and one day we can do a khutbah about his life and how Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the last 40 days of his life, how he treated him. But all of his ahadiths are phenomenal, and they have so much benefit. And many of the fuqaha, they mention that there is no sahabi, like this is the only sahabi that they can say that all the ahadiths that he narrated are not mansukh, i.e. they're not abrogated, because they were 40 days before the life of Prophet ﷺ ended, before he died sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Jarir ibn Abdullah, he is the narrator of this hadith, and he says that he was sitting with Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam Sadr al-Nahar, in the morning time, right before Salatul Dhuhr, they were sitting there. فَجَاءَهُ قَوْمٌ. So there was a qawm, or there was a tribe, a group of people that came to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he describes the condition of these people. He said, حُفَاتٌ عُرَاء. They were almost uncovered, like almost naked. لَقَدْ إِجْتَابُ النِّمَارِ. That they had cladded their bodies or covered their bodies with rags of wool. Any piece of wool that they could cover, and they could cover whatever part of their private parts, they would cover that. Or in another narration it says, أَوْ أَوِلْ عَبَاءَ, i.e. think of a blanket, and if you were to cut a hole in the middle of the blanket, you were to put that on top of you, it would cover your front and back. But the sides would still be empty, would still be open. So they came in the condition, i.e. they were extremely poor. And then Jarir ibn Abdullah, he says, أَغْلَبُهُمْ أَوْ مُعْظَمُهُمْ مِنْ مُضَرٍ. They were from the tribe of Mudar. But then he corrected himself in the narration and he says, بَلْ أَكْكُلُّهُمْ مِنْ مُضَرٍ. Every single one of them was from Bani Mudar. مُتَقَلِّدِ السُّيُوفِ. Another description of theirs was they did not have enough money to wear belts so they could hang their swords. So the men, they had put their swords sort of a necklace on their necks. That's the only way they could carry the swords. Then Jarir ibn Abdullah, he describes for us what happened to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he says, فَتَغَيَّرَ. In another narration it says, فَتَعَمَّرَ فَتَعَبَّرَ. Different narrations that Rasulullah's facial expressions changed. And he got super sad looking at the condition of these people. Why was he sad? The fuqaha and the ulama, they have mentioned he was sad not because they were poor. That's a state that Allah can put anyone in. He was poor of the fact that he is towards the end of his lifetime. And there are people like that, i.e. his sultanate, his kingdom that he has established, his imara, his sovereignty has not taken care of these people. فَخَرَجَ النَّبِي صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. So he got up and he left. فَدَخَلَ الْبَيْتِ. So he entered his house. ثُمَّ رَجَعَ. Then he came back. فَأَمَرَ بِلَالَ أَنْ يُؤَذِّنْ. So he commanded Bilal radiallahu anh, give adhan. فَصَلَّى بِالنَّاسِ ثُمَّ قَامَ خَطِيبًا. Then he got up, prayed salah, and then he came on the mimbar and he is about to deliver the khutbah. And he says, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people. And he starts with the verse of Surah Nisa. Ya ayyuhan nas uttaqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida, the whole ayah. Then he reads the next ayah from Surah Hashr. وَلْتَنْزُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ. He recites that ayah. Then this khutbah starts, and he says, تَصَدَّقَ sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, تَصَدَّقَ رَجُلٌ مِّن مَالِهِ. That a person gives sadaqah from his mal. وَمِن دِينَارِهِ. From his wealth. وَمِن دِرْهَمِهِ. All different ways of describing your wealth. In today's term, if you want to make it relevant, like you give money through, whether it is through your credit cards or your debit cards or your bank machines or online payments, whichever way wealth is accumulated, and then they would do sadaqah with that. Whether it is a property and a share of property you want to give, whichever way. So he's just describing that all the different ways that we accumulate wealth. In those days it was dinar and dirham. Today we have different ways. We give sadaqah. وَمِن ثَوْبِهِ. Sadaqah is also from our clothes. I.e., if you have excess clothes, if you have clothes that you're not wearing, if you have clothes that you have no need of, then give sadaqah with your clothes. وَمِن صَاعِ بُرِّهِ. Sa' is basically a measure in the fiqh. There is mud and sa', which is almost 3.5 kilograms or 3.8 kilograms. So it's a measure in the olden days the way we have kilograms today. So Prophet ﷺ said, from sa'i burrihi, from a kilo of the wheat that you have, you donate from that. And then it says, وَمِن sa'i tamrihi, i.e. the fruits that you have, tamar, date, you give sadaqah with your food, with your rice, with wheat, with fruits, whatever you have, you give sadaqah with. And then the narrator, the khutbah was so long, he says, he did not complete the khutbah for Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He says, حَتَّى قَالْ, i.e. he kept on saying different examples until he came to the end of the khutbah. And he says, وَلَوْ بِشِقِّ تَمْرَةٍ. And even if it is half of a date, a portion of a date, i.e. sadaqah does not constitute that you must have a bank account. You can give sadaqah if you only have one date, not even a date, shiqq tamra. If you can only donate a portion of that date and you eat the other portion, then that is considered sadaqah. فقال Jarir ibn Abdullah, he mentions, فجاء رجل. The mufassirun of this hadith, they said, he did not know the name of this sahabi. This sahabi was not from the sahaba that were known. I.e. he was just but min Ansar. He was a person from Ansar. Nobody knew the name of this person. The narrator, he did not know, and neither nobody else in other narrations mentions the name. فَجَاءَ رَجُلٌ مِّنْ أَنصَارٍ بِسُرَّةٍ. A person from Ansar comes and he has a cloak. Like, think of it like, like in Urdu we have chadar or a cloak, and you put stuff in it and you tie it and you bring that whole thing. And it mentions the description of how much stuff he had put in it or how heavy it was in it. He says, بِسُرَّةٍ كَادَتْ كَفُّهُ تَعْجِزُ عَنْ حَمْلِهِ. That it was very difficult for his one hand to hold on to that bag that he brought. بَلْ قَدْ عَجَزَتْ, i.e. when he came to Prophet ﷺ, he was not able to hold it. It was so heavy, it fell. It slipped out of his hands. ثُمَّ تَتَابَعَ النَّاسِ. Then after that, people went home, got stuff. تَتَابَعَ النَّاسِ. People started giving left, right, and center. It was a giving frenzy. حَتَّى رَأَيْتُ. Until I saw with my eyes. كَوْمَيْنِ مِنَ الطَّعَامِ. I saw a whole pile of food, وَالشَّرَابِ وَالثِّيَابِ. I saw people donated food, drinks. Why didn't he mention money? Because that was what was needed for the people at that time. But they also donated money and thiyab and clothes, so that these brothers could be clothes, these sahabis. حتى رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. It was so big, the piles became so big that I saw Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم وجهه, his face استنار. It was lit with happiness. In other hadith it says كأنه مذهبة, as if you had gold plated the face of Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم from the happiness that he showed to the Sahaba and how the Sahabas reacted. Then Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم got on the mimbar again, because it didn't end. He was so happy. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من سن في الإسلام سنة. Whosoever establishes in Islam a ritual, sunnatan hasanatan, a righteous ritual, فله أجرها the person gets the ajr for that, وَأَجْرُ مَنْ عَمِلَ عَلَيْهَا. And the ajr of every single person until the day of judgment that follows the path of that. So, today we have multiple examples of that. Somebody starts a dars or halaqa, and then that dars goes on. Like I was recently in one of the masjids in Ontario, and they mentioned that this one particular masjid, they've been having a halaqa for the last 27 years. The person who started that halaqa, he passed away 12 years ago, somebody else took over that halaqa. And subhanAllah, every single person that benefits from that halaqa, the person who started it 27 years ago, he gets the ajr for it. The only condition we need to be worried about is as long as that halaqa or whatever we're starting to benefit people, whether it is worldly or the benefit of their religion, that it has some basis in our religion. We can't just create a thing and say, you know what, this is how we're going to do it from this day onwards. It has to be something that is founded on the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam completes the hadith and he says, وَأَجْرُ مَنْ عَمِلَ بِهَا بَعْدَ and then he says, مَنْ سَنَّ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ سُنَّةً سَيِّئَةً. And whosoever starts in Islam an evil ritual, i.e. a ritual that is evil, whosoever starts something and people get misled with whatever he has started, كَانَ عَلَيْهِ وِزْرُهَا وِزْرُ مَنْ عَمِلَ عَلَيْهِ. Every single person that follows that evil ritual, the sin that they get, that person also grabs a portion of that sin. And no sin, like there's no depletion in the sin of that person. He gets that full sin and you get a portion, full portion of that sin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. This hadith is very, very profound, because if we think about it, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he sees the condition of the Sahaba, first and foremost, and before he gets up and gives the khutbah, he goes home, tries to look for something. But how would he find anything when Aisha radiallahu anha, she mentions that there would be 3 moons, i.e. 3 months would pass by and we would not have anything in our house to actually light, like we would not have food, or we would not need to light a fire because we would not have food in our house. So they asked, what did you live on? Ala aswadain, water and dates. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he went home, he did not find anything. So first lesson for us is that when we ask someone to do something, or when we ask someone to do sadaqah, we find in the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tried implementing it himself, if he was able to give anything. Then he comes back and he asks the Sahaba. Notice over here, the focus over here today is this one Sahabi. He did not say to himself, Abu Bakr did not donate yet. Abu Bakr hasn't given sadaqah yet. Abu Bakr is sitting, he hasn't given sadaqah. Who is Abu Bakr? We all know. When Prophet ﷺ said, whosoever has followed a janazah, Abu Bakr said, I did. Whosoever did sadaqah, I did. All the 5 a'mal al-salihah that Prophet ﷺ asked the Sahaba, nobody had done it other than Abu Bakr. Then you had Umar, who brought half of his wealth in Jaysh al-Usra when the Battle of Tabuk was taking place. You had Uthman, who donated 100, then another 100, then another 100, then another 100, 500 camels. In another narration it mentions 900 camels to prepare the army for Battle of Tabuk. They were all there. He did not wait for them. And notice this hadith, Rasulullah is giving the khutbah, and you can only imagine that the Sahabi, as soon as he heard, he did not wait for the khutbah to finish. Because as soon as Rasulullah finished, fa means that right after Rasulullah finished, he came with the bag. I.e. he left between the khutbah to go and grab what he had to grab. He did not wait for the khutbah to finish. This is a good deed that I need to act upon, and he started it. So the question that you and I need to ask is, what was driving this person? And the answer to that is, he did not wait for others to do things. Many a times in our lives, we wait for others to do things. Like, oh, let them start, inshallah, then I'll do this, inshallah. Let him start, and then I'll take care of this. Let the people change, and then I'll change. He did not wait for that. Let Abu Bakr, mashallah, he's more worthy of this. Let him start. He became the first one. And because of that, Rasulullah, this famous hadith that everybody knows, Man sanna fil Islami sunnatan hasanatan falahu ajru. And this famous hadith, everybody has heard of it. It came into existence because of this one Sahabi's quick actions and thinking that he did not wait for the right time. And this is the only way that we can begin change in our lives. We start with ourselves. There's another hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's in Ibn Majah, where he mentions Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asks Hamza radiallahu anhu, he says, Ya Hamza, Ya Hamza, أَنَفْسٌ تَحْيَاهَا أَحَبُّ إِلَيْكَ أَمْ نَفْسٌ تُمِيتُهَا? Would you like, what do you love? A person that you let live or the person that you kill? So Hamza radiallahu anhu, he responds and he says, Ya Rasulullah, نَفْسٌ تُحْيِيهَا, a person that I would love to let live. Then Prophet ﷺ, he responds, he says, فَعَلَيْكَ بِنَفْسِكَ. Then if you want to resurrect that one person, you want to keep him alive, then start with yourself. You be that person that are going to stay alive. I.e., start with yourself. Don't think about the life of that person. And many, many other times, Rasulullah ﷺ, he says, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. So many times, the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, he says, بَادِرُوا بِالْأَعْمَالِ الصَّالِحَةِ. You be the first one that starts off the good deeds. That all happens because the person does not think of someone else, let him begin this good deed. I will be the one that will start this off. I will be the chain reaction. I will be that first domino that falls, that will fall. Preceding that, all the other domino effects will take place. I was recently in Makkah, alhamdulillah, and you know, when we went for Tawaf al-Ifada in Hajj, we got a chance to pray. We were there and we prayed Salat. Actually, it's Tawaf al-Qudum. And the Haram, it was filled. And then Fajr Salat came. It was time for Salat al-Fajr. And I saw people in Sa'i, they were all walking, they're all in their own life, they're all focused on what they need to do. And the minute the Mu'adhin, he starts the Iqamah, every single person, all the 2.3 million, 2.5 million, 3 million, whatever counts you follow, 3 million people, within less than a minute, they all line up towards one purpose. Now, I was thinking about that when I was preparing the khutbah, that if that person, like if I was one of that person over there and I said, you know what, I'm not gonna start the line until the person next to me is going to start. No one's gonna start the line. No lineup is gonna happen in hell. If every person waits for the next person to start the lineup process. But when Iqamah happens, every person's focused on, where do I need to stand? I need to face the Qibla. Okay, he is not worried about the person on the left, to the right. You're focused on you making sure that you're facing the Qibla and you're ready for Salah. And when that happens, we see this 5 times a day in Haram, in Medina, all the time. When we focus on ourselves and the focus of what we want to accomplish, and we don't worry about others, everything around us gets corrected. And we see this time and again, a total chaos in Haram, everybody's lined up. And this is a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, many times in different parts of the world that you go, you can observe the birds. When the bird needs to get off, again, you see these, if you live close to wilderness, you'll see that there's a whole flock of birds. And then, you know, just one bird decides to take off. Like the geese, they're in the pond. One geese decides to take off, everyone else follows. But you have to be that one geese, you have to be that one person that is focused on getting the right things done in your life. And we all need to make changes in our lives. I'm not going to talk about what changes we need to make, because that is a personal journey that each and every one of us has to have. We all have shortcomings, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that, and you know them, and I know them. And we just need to focus on being the first person to fix ourselves. Inshallah, everything around us will fall into the right place. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala man la nabiyya ba'da. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grants us tawfiq to practice this religion. We ask Allah that He opens our hearts to see all the ailments that we have in our hearts, and we're able to see our ailments and sicknesses so we can cure them. We ask Allah that He inspires us within our hearts to be connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the deen of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the sunnah of our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask Allah that on this blessed day that He sends the salutations, Allahumma salli wa sallim ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And in the end, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that every single one of us who has challenges in their lives, who have difficulties in connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we become the first person, we take that first step. And then remember the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the end, where Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that if you take one step towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He comes towards you 10 steps. And if we take 10 steps towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يَأْتِيكُمْ هَرْوَلًا, that He comes running towards us. So we ask Allah that Allah increases our connection individually and as an ummah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we can withstand the challenges that our ummah is going to face in the coming future. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه فإنه الغفور الرحيم.